back to story hour. So yeah, I've always been really modest as I raise the prices. I will say that we're probably not the cheapest studio around, but when we first started out, month unlimiteds were $99. That was 11 years ago. I've raised them to $129, which is not that, I mean, it's a significant amount of money, right? Like, I'm not trying to say that it's not significant money. I'm not trying to be dismissive about what we charge, but it's unlimited. You can come as much as you want to. Drop-ins, we started at $17. I eventually raised them to $19. And then I was like, I don't want people coming for drop-ins. Like, if they want to come to the studio, I want them to be committed to coming to the studio and to learning and not just coming once in a while. And so it's basically like the more committed you are, like the better the price is going to be. So over the past, I basically tried to make the drop-ins like so expensive that people would buy class packages instead. So our drop-ins are now $35, which I realize is a high price for a drop-in class, right? But it's like, if you're not going to commit, that's the rate. If you wanted to do $129 for a whole month of yoga, most people come 2, 3, 4 times a week, and then it ends up being something like $12 a class, which is a completely reasonable amount of money. As far as I'm concerned, whether that is like 2015 prices or 2025, 26 prices. Anyway, fast forward. Without going through my entire price sheets and all of that different stuff, today, a woman called and left a voicemail. She was obviously kind of snarky and annoyed to begin with when she left the voicemail. She said that she had bought a 10-pack back in the spring, and that she was sure she had classes left over, but she just went to go book a class and she didn't have any classes. So on the receipt, since I have put expiration dates on packages, it is on the receipt that people get, it is on the website, it says like, make sure that you mark your calendar so you know when your classes expire, like all of that different stuff. For a 10-pack, we give people 6 months, which is more than enough time to use 10 classes. For 20 and 40 packs, which are the other size classes that we offer, we give a year. And during COVID, again, we had this huge thing where it was like, we were hemorrhaging money. I had 3 different leases for the studio. I ended up closing one of the studios during COVID because it was so prohibitive. We couldn't, again, have anyone in person. So I was still trying to have the teachers teach as many classes as possible so that they could still be making money. Because yoga teachers are 1099, I didn't get any government assistance for their payroll. The only thing I got government assistance for was for my own self and my own salary. So I was really doing everything that I could to maintain the studios and keep them around, and to continue to support the teachers and to not default on any of my leases or things like that. So any classes that were bought after, I think when I put the expiration dates on was like maybe at some time early 2020. And it was like, these are the expiration dates. It is strict. There is no exceptions. Don't buy a package and think that we're going to be like making exceptions. Anything that had been bought previous to that rule was still never going to expire, right? When you bought it, that was the expectation. I wasn't going to change the rules on the back end, but anything that you bought from there on out, those are the rules. And it was documented everywhere. So this woman bought a 10-pack back in the spring, 6-month expiration. She had come to one drop-in class and apparently liked it well enough to buy a 10-pack, just all things being equal. So she came to 5 classes. She complained during every class to every teacher and in front of lots of students. And it was very clear that our studio and the style of yoga that we did was not a good fit for her. She didn't like the heat. It's documented everywhere that all of our classes are heated, and even the temperatures that our classes are. She didn't like how crowded the classes were. Again, we're popular, but we're also a small physical space. So thank God we're popular, like what a blessing. But lots of people like that energy when we're really close to each other. She didn't like the music. Again, documented that we have music. And even like in the descriptions of classes, loud, fast, etc. but she still didn't read any of those things and kept coming and kept complaining. So after 5 classes, she complained to a teacher at the studio that it was too hot and she didn't like that, and that was in April. So we're in Michigan. April's not super hot, but this teacher whose class she had gone to is very popular, so a really full class, and if you have a lot of people in the room breathing and moving and generating heat, it's gonna be hot. That teacher suggested maybe wait a few months, come back, you know, when it's the fall and the air cools down a little, maybe it'll be cooler in the studio. I mean, all things being equal, in the fall, that's when more people start coming, so I don't know if that's, you know, great advice. It's a hot studio, we play music, and it's popular and the classes are kind of full. So anyway, I got a voicemail from this woman earlier today. Hi, this is my name. I went to book a class and it said that I didn't have any classes on my account. All of that perfectly normal information, right? She maybe just didn't check the dates of her package, etc. Could somebody give me a call back so we could get this straightened out? So already that kind of language lets me know that she thinks she's right, which is fine. You know, there's this whole adage that, like, in customer service, that like the customer is always right. However, I don't live by that adage. Sometimes people are wrong, and I am not interested in having people who are fussy or negative or problematic at the studio, because in order to make a studio run with as many personalities, all of the students, all of the teachers, my mental health, right? Like, everyone has to be, you know, interested in things going well. If somebody wants to specifically be interested in things not going well, like, it's going to snowball into a problem. So I called her back, she didn't answer, and I left a voicemail and I said, hi, I just checked your package. It looks like it had actually expired. You know, we have a very strict policy. However, if you're interested in buying another package, I'm happy to tack on any of the classes that expired that you didn't use onto a future package, which I think is good for everyone, right? She has an expired commodity. The commodity has expired. It is no longer available. It's like if you buy a plane ticket or a hotel room and you don't show up, they're not going to be like, oh, let me just give you a new one or extend it to another ticket, right? They're going to say, they might work with you in order for you to like recoup some of that value, but they're not just going to say like, oh, too bad you didn't check. And so that's something that I've been doing for the past like year. It's good for us because if people want to keep coming to the studio, they can keep coming. They're buying more classes, which means they're going to be coming to the studio. The studio makes money. More people are at the studio. I have resources for all of those things that I previously listed. And then they also get to recoup those classes that they had let expire. So she calls. She says, hello, this is so-and-so. And I said, hi there. I mean, it's obviously still my voice. And she says, what's your name? And I told her, my name is Risa. And she says, you just left me a voicemail. She goes on to complain about how the classes expired, but it was too loud and it was too hot and X, Y, and Z, and how she had had a conversation with a certain teacher who had told her, maybe wait till the fall. And I said, I appreciate that you had that conversation. I don't really know anything about it. She cut me off and said, I just told you about it. Okay. So I continued to let her tell me the story. Then I said, you know, this is what we do so that if you're committed to coming to the studio, you can keep coming. Pause for just a second.